Welcome back to the Kevin O'Connor Show. We're previewing the Northwest Division today with Steve Jones from the Dunker Spot. Steve, what's going on, man?
Not much. Happy to be here. Excited to be here. Ready to talk some hoops. The season is coming quick, but this is a fun one to talk about. So ready to dive into it with you.
I know, very fun division. We got the Thunder, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Blazers, and Jazz. We'll start off with the defending champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Not a big offseason for them with changes. As you'd expect, they only draft Thomas Sorber in the first round, who unfortunately tore his ACL and will miss the season. Second year in a row, OKC is having a rookie miss the season. They drafted Brooks Barnhizer in the second round as well. The big thing for them is they extended their guys. SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, the other Jalen Williams, J-Dub, and J. Will. So for OKC, they're entering this season, Steve, with pretty much the same roster, pretty much what will be the same rotation, plus Nikola Topic now entering his rookie season after missing all of last year. So for OKC, man, I feel like they should be the favorites again. I have no questions there. Will they repeat? That is the big question for them. And I think ultimately that is the biggest question with OKC, Steve, does development plateau for this young roster, or do they keep ascending? Do these young players continue improving, further bolstering OKC's chances? What's your gut say with OKC entering the season, or what could happen?
My gut says somewhere in between. I know that sounds a little odd. Like, I don't know if they replicate 68 wins type beat, but I do feel like they will get better. They are going to be the hunted this season. So, I mean, the teams are going to be coming at them in a different way. They have continuity on their side. But I think with the fabric of this team, especially with what Coach Dadnall has kind of put into them as far as just understanding that they're always working to get better. They're always working to kind of flex their muscles and work through different scenarios. And they have an understanding of what makes them good on both ends of the floor. It's hard to deny that's going to translate this year, especially when you look at the type of team they have, the type of lineups they can throw out there. Jalen Williams can still get better. Chet Holmgren can still get a lot better. They have different combinations they can throw out there. And then defensively, they have such an activity and such a base. It hasn't been proven that the league has kind of figured out how to poke at them at either end of the floor. So that's where I get intrigued to see, okay, what do teams try and throw at them? How they try and handle things? Who they try to attack? Can they poke at the defense? So that's kind of where I'm at. But the Thunder are set up to succeed. I think that's the one thing we have all talked about as far as the scary part of last year. It's not just how good they were. It's that they're set up to continue to be good. And I believe in the structure they have to be able to replicate a lot of success.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think with this team, they're already really good. Obviously, they just won the NBA Finals, as you said, and they have so much lineup flexibility, so many different styles that they can play. I think with them, I'm just wondering, does Jalen Williams get even better? Does he continue taking a step forward as we saw him do in the playoffs? Does SGA have another level that he can reach? Does Kason Wallace improve off their bench? Does Nikola Topic become an actual valuable piece for them off their bench? How do they find minutes for these guys? And I think team chemistry wise, you will have people around the league who say, well, eventually you're going to have these guys who start getting frustrated. Eventually you're going to have Kason Wallace saying, hey, I want to get paid for my second contract. I need this opportunity. I don't think that's going to happen this year, Steve. I'd be a little surprised. It feels a little early for that, considering how young this team is. But, at the same time, I do think it is worth at least acknowledging that people around the league do have those conversations with OKC when it comes to poking holes in this deep roster, this young roster, where eventually it's not going to have these college vibes. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're close to that. But what do you think?
I don't think we're close. I think the positive for OKC is these guys have all been on similar journeys and have similar mindsets and have an understanding of what it takes to win. So I don't think we're knocking on that door. And I think they all are a little bit different in different degrees. Who's really truly in Kason Wallace's way as far as his development? Minutes might change, but everyone kind of has a piece of the pie. Everyone has a role. I think that's where you give the Thunder credit for Isaiah Joe knowing what he has to come in and do, Aaron Wiggins knowing what he has to come in and do, Caruso, Kason Wallace. So even if the minutes aren't high one night, they're always ready to come in and plug in and help the team elevate. And I think that's one of the things we saw in the playoffs. I think it was Mark Dadnall said at some point in the playoffs, We're not looking to shrink our rotation. We're trying to expand things and shape shift through different matchups. I think that part of the program is what makes OKC a little bit different from that sense.
How unique is that league wide in the NBA right now? With you see the way OKC is able to shapeshift?
Very, very. I think that's the biggest strength. To me, that stood out in the playoffs as far as a lot of times we talk about individual matchups or versatility defensively. This was a team that had so many guys who could defend your top two perimeter players, and they have felt the comfort with being able to switch and have different lineups and, take their bigs out of, having to trap or having to be in a drop or getting poked at. And I think that's what's really unique, that we feel comfortable being able to defend these top guys. That's always been the benefit for me of something like these big threes or the big trades. Like, you don't have enough defenders for them. OKC does. And so as the series goes on, they feel more comfortable throwing more people at your top guys. And it makes it hard to just kind of loosen things because what are you poking at? Who are you trying to attack? And, they have help defense behind it. They're smart. So it's a tricky battle, but it's very unique. Like, that's not something that every team has, and it's hard to replicate. You're not going to be able to have that much defensive talent that can also translate on the offensive end.
I mean, it's incredibly challenging to replicate what they have with all the versatility. I mean, they have really like 11, 12 guys that or maybe 13, 14 guys deserving of minutes. It's just the reality of their situation where Kenrich Williams barely plays at all in the playoffs, and then he has a big game when he gets an opportunity. And, you have different guys having different nights and different moments. And this year during the full regular season, like, they're going to be able to rest guys if they need to. If SGA turns his ankle and they want to give him 3 weeks off instead of 2 weeks off, and then Kason Wallace gets those opportunities to run a little bit more point instead of being the off ball guy. There's going to be opportunities for Topic and these young guys, Wallace, to get extended opportunities depending on how OKC wants to play this whole season out. So I think ultimately, I think my prediction for them this year is I think we're going to see the roster stay the same again. I don't think Sam Presti this year is going to make changes again. I think he really values the team chemistry with OKC. I think they probably view it as a bit of a mistake when they went and got Gordon Hayward prior to last season. It just shook things up a little bit. I think this team wants to stay together. I think there's a reason why they extended Jalen Williams, even though he isn't the perfect backup center. I think they view him as their culture guy. And with OKC, I think they're just going to roll it back the full year and try to win it again. Like, do you see anything that would make sense for OKC to do at all for them to make moves this season?
No, I mean, I've been in the unpopular opinion that they need to stand pat, and everyone said, hey, they need a big. I was like, well, it's kind of structured in a way where they don't have to get a big. Then they got a big in Isaiah Hartenstein who fits exactly what they need. So I don't necessarily look at this team and say they need specifically one thing. I mean, I'm sure in theory you would like to have quote unquote shooting, but I think you have enough internal development, enough talent, enough combinations that you feel pretty comfortable with what you got. So stand pat, hold your ground, defend your crown.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And ultimately, for Tier, this team is the favorites. They are true contenders, and once again, they are the favorites for sure. Ultimately, though, the West is loaded, and as you said, they are going to be the targets this year, and that is something different. Whereas last year, they're saying, "Oh, everybody's around the league saying, oh, this is this young team. We're not afraid of OKC." This year, people are going to be actually taking them very, very seriously league-wide.
It's going to be interesting that all that's off the table now. You can't do any of those talking points. Mm-hmm. That's gone out of here. Champions. I will ask a question. You said the Western Conference is loaded. Kevin, is the Northwest Division the toughest division in the NBA?
I think it is. I think so. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have 3 contenders: OKC, Denver, and Minnesota. Obviously, Portland is not. Utah is not as well. But I think Portland's going to be fun. They could have a really good defense. So if you're factoring that in as well from the bottom of the division as well, I think they're tougher than the Pacific with the Lakers, Clippers, and Warriors, Kings, and Suns. That's tough though too, man. And I would say for sure that's tougher than the Southwest with Rockets, Mavs, Spurs, Pelicans, and Grizzlies. So there's nobody in the East for sure. The only real competition would be the Pacific. Would you say, or is there somebody that I'm missing that would be as competitive as this Northwest division?
I'm leaning Northwest. I think
Yeah.
Eastern Conference
Nope.
is
Nobody in
tough.
the East, to be clear, right? No
No,
division in the East.
yeah, man, it's not happening.
I,
Pacific,
I think
I would
Pacific is
understand.
very close.
I guess it just depends on how good you think Sacramento's going to be, or
Not
the
good.
Southwest. The Southwest is tricky, but it depends on how you feel
Sneaky.
about San
Yeah,
Antonio, New
I guess it
Orleans.
depends. Yeah, what are the Spurs going to be? Would be the question with the Southwest Division, and I guess also what are the Memphis Grizzlies and Dallas Mavericks going to be? There's more questions with the Southwest to me,
Hmm.
whereas with the Northwest, we know what OKC is. We know what Denver is. We know what Minnesota can be. 2 straight West Finals, and I think Portland's defense is going to be really good, as we'll talk about later. But let's move on to, in my opinion, the biggest competitor to knock Oklahoma City off this year is the Denver Nuggets. And the Nuggets this offseason were very, very busy. They trade Michael Porter Jr., they trade Dario Saric, and they bring in Tim Hardaway Jr., Cam Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, and old friend Bruce Brown. So this rotation now, when you look at the Nuggets, they go from feeling what was a shallow team, Steve, to a very deep team at this point with what should be the best backup of Jokic's career in Jonas Valanciunas, a ton of guys at the wing position. Adding Bruce Brown helps bolster the backcourt as well. So I'm really, really bullish on what the Denver Nuggets can be this season with their new rotation.
I mean, it's tough to argue with what Denver did. I think when you look at it, Denver said this particular issue, this bench issue, this lack of depth issue, we're never going to have it again. We're going to have some level of versatility. I think the biggest thing for me is not just the amount of people they added, but the fit. Like I feel like they fit into what Denver wants to do. Obviously, we've seen what Bruce Brown has done with Denver, but adding Cam Johnson, his ability to do different things offensively and fit in with that system, using him on ball, off ball, and handoffs, off pin downs, get some movement in there. That's great. But you have Jonas Valanciunas who's going to help them out. You have Tim Hardaway who's going to give you a level of shooting, especially a willingness. So he's going to be a threat out there. You have optionality within your second unit to a degree, which I think is a little bit more fun. And so when Jokic comes off, okay, maybe we can keep some of the things we do. Obviously Valanciunas isn't the same player as Jokic, but we can do some handoffs. We can throw it in the post. We can get some cutting. We can have something that is going to be valuable for our entire team as opposed to, well, Jokic's on the bench. Let's hope pick and roll works or Jamal Murray's able to cook. And I think that's a good level of balance for them. I think for them, it's important because you still have those young guys that they used last year that stepped up, whether it's, Christian Brown, obviously, but like Strother, Watson, Pickett. But now they don't have to carry as much of the load. They can kind of just be enhancement to what you do, which I think is positive. And I just like the fact that they could go small-ish, the Bruce Brown being able to play 4, Aaron Gordon, we've seen play at the 5 for Denver. They can just kind of poke and do different things at different times depending on the matchups. But it just feels like a team that has more vets in the room, more versatility. The depth is good. Small ball lineups. You have people who can cut and move the ball. I like a lot of what Denver did, and I think this is a team that if they go off to a really good start, it gets really interesting as far as how the standings go. But I think if they get off to a great start, it can get fun.
I think you're spot on hitting the lineup versatility they now have with Denver. It's like I think with Jokic, obviously your best lineups are going to be with Jokic on the floor, and you also have what should be the best backup of his career in Valanciunas, Daron Holmes. If he can stay healthy, he missed his rookie season after rupturing his Achilles a year ago in Vegas Summer League, and hopefully he's able to stay healthy now and be productive. So you have the ability. If Holmes is good, he's a potentially versatile big man out of Dayton. He can shoot threes a bit. He's a skilled big man. If he can play some 4 for you, you could play with 2 bigs. And if you do want to use Aaron Gordon at the 5, to your point, with Peyton Watson and Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown, you can have some size and switchable lineups as well when Jokic is off the floor and all those bigs are off the floor. So Denver, to me, feels like a team that recognized what was so effective with Oklahoma City with lineup versatility, style versatility, and now they have that ability to integrate that as well around Jokic or without Jokic in the situations that he's off the floor. So you're not just garbage anytime he's on the bench. Like that's what they've been, man. And so I think like you also said in there, Steve, with Cam Johnson. The versatility that he has, to me, he's the Nuggets swing piece this year. I know a lot of people will say it's Jamal Murray, because Jamal Murray, clearly with his conditioning, will he be the star level player that we've seen in the past, or will he be up and down as we've seen more in recent years? Cam Johnson, to me, adding him instead of Michael Porter Jr., who is a great shooter but more one-dimensional. Cam Johnson, if you look at his numbers each season of his career, 3-pointers taken off the dribble when he dribbles 2 or more times. Last year in Brooklyn, he had 60 attempts where he took 3-pointers with 2+ dribbles taken. That was a career high for him. He made 38.3% of those shots. And years prior, before that, he was 38 attempts, 20 attempts, 12 attempts, 10 attempts, 3 attempts. So every single year, he's elevated the amount of times that he's taking jumpers off the dribble from 3 and from mid-range too. And he's become a really effective player at it, as you said, off of dribble handoffs, occasionally at a pick and roll. Now, Denver has a lot of options there, that he's not going to have as much freedom as he did for, some crappy Brooklyn teams. But ultimately, I think Cam Johnson's evolution of a player, Nuggets fans are going to learn, and NBA fans are going to learn, that he is not the guy that we saw in Phoenix, where he was just 3-point shooter specialist, attack a closeout, make the right play. He has more dynamic layers to his game now that I think add a new ingredient to the Nuggets that could make them really, really special and really versatile in the half court on offense.
No, I think that's the biggest part, is the fact that he grew in Brooklyn, but he now does not have to carry the same load as he had in Brooklyn. It's a little bit like opposite of, you think of Mikal Bridges' run in Brooklyn, and now it's kind of like he's this now. And it's like, well, kind of. Cam Johnson can now do what he did as far as the driving, which I thought was a good improvement for him, as far as I catch you, close out, I beat you off the bounce, I can get in the paint, I can make a paint touch, I can kick. Obviously, we know he can drive closeouts, but the playmaking and being able to be in an offense that's going to use him in different ways, I think that's a positive. I think that'll help. You're not going to necessarily run him off 18 pick and rolls, but you don't have to. You got Jokic, you got Murray. So we can kind of use him in secondary actions. If something doesn't work on the first side, we can get him on the other side. We can get him in movement. So I think his ability to kind of take what he learned in Brooklyn and apply it to a system that should be able to use the skill set very well, I think that's the biggest plus. I think he's going to be able to kind of hit the ground running in that aspect. And, how much defensive attention is he going to get, especially if he's in action with Jokic? How does that open things up? Does that help him drive more? And is there more ability for him to kind of play off other people and get open shots? I think there's a lot of positives for him here.
What do you think is the key for Denver to take down OKC this year?
Defense. I think their defense has hit a certain level. I believe in the offense. I believe in the depth. I believe in the combinations. They have to find the defense that they want as early as they can in the season. I think, obviously, with Coach Allen there, similarities but different. I think with Denver, this is a team where if you turn on the TV, you know exactly where their defense is at on that night. So how much activity is it going to be? How many different schemes can you execute? Which lineups can do what? Can you switch? If they're able to find a comfort defensively, that's a team that's going to be really dangerous, because now they can get out and run. They can get easy ones. They can hurt you in the half court. But the key for them to hit their ceiling is going to be finding that defensive consistency. Doesn't have to be A+, in my opinion. It just has to be something that they feel confident and comfortable with against different teams, against different styles.
Jokic did not look great defensively in Serbia's loss in Eurobasket. He was continually pulled out to the perimeter, targeted, attacked. And look, in Denver, he's going to have a lot better help behind him. He's going to have Aaron Gordon at help, maybe some 2 big systems with DeRon Holmes. We'll see. I mean, I'm not ruling that out. I'm very bullish on what DeRon Holmes can be. You got better help behind him, but that's still going to be the formula. It's always going to be the formula when you're facing Denver.
Yeah, I mean, when they had their best success, it was Jokic, do your job. We feel comfortable with the help and rotations behind it, and we don't ultimately give up easy ones. I think that's just kind of where they're going to have to live with or live at, especially in this league. Teams are going to put him in action. They're going to put Jamal Murray in action against wings. They're going to try and poke at different things. Just be able to kind of problem solve and not be a team who over rotates or put yourself in a bad spot or open things up for teams. That's the key for Denver. They got to be a do your job type defense.
I mean, ultimately, for tiers, they are 100% true contenders. And to me, I think I would just put them a tick behind OKC out of respect to the Thunder for being the defending champions. But with the Denver Nuggets, man, I have no doubts about this team that they're going to be deep in the playoffs as long as they're healthy. That hopefully, I pray to God that we see Denver OKC Part 2 in the playoffs. I'm excited for those regular season matchups. I would be above and beyond stoked for another 7-game series between these two teams. Like we're not even in October yet, but just the idea of that, Steve, that series was so freaking fun, man.
This is your jam. This is your series right here. Denver OKC. This is what you want to see.
Give it
right?
I want it again. Is there a series you'd rather see, Steve? What's number one on your list?
I mean, at this point, I can't. You put me on the spot. Now, let's think. I'm going to do an Eastern Conference one just to bother the world, but I'm not going to do that. I think I personally would like to see Lakers Rockets.
That'd be a good one.
That speaks to me in a way. I'm not exactly sure why, but I feel like there's a lot of different combinations that could make that one fun.
Well, it's KD versus LeBron. You get that aspect for, the big names. You get clash of styles. That'd be a very, very fun one. And, for Denver OKC, we've seen it before, of course, but it would be different this time. Minnesota, Denver would be another good one to see those two clash off once again with all their bigs. And with Minnesota, this offseason, didn't do a lot. They wanted to do a lot. They wanted to go out and get Kevin Durant, and they weren't able to get him. The Houston Rockets got Kevin Durant. They bring back Ingles, Randall, Naz Reid. They just signed Bones Highland a couple weeks ago. They lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker to the Atlanta Hawks. They lose Luka Garza, Josh Minot as well. Not a big offseason for the Timberwolves, Steve. I think ultimately with this team, when we flip to their rotation here, it looks very much the same on paper, minus Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That means the big question for this team is, of course, does Anthony Edwards continue to take a big step? But do Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon help fill the loss of Nickeil Alexander-Walker with the ball handling, with the wing position, and also the decline of Mike Conley? It's very important that they have more creation alongside Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. Dillingham has got to provide that. Shannon has to provide that. To me, like they're the big swing pieces for this roster, aside from Anthony Edwards with his own individual player development. Like they need those guys to be good, especially after losing Nah.
I think depth will be the interesting part. I think systematically they're set up for success. It's just going to be, do you get the consistency from Rob Dillingham as far as being able to make the right reads and make the right plays? I think he's had electric moments. I think he's had learning opportunities. And obviously there'll be more of a runway. So sometimes you get those reps, you get that consistency, you can improve in those areas. I think the interesting part between Shannon and Clark is just how much defense do they bring to the table? Can they hold up on the other end? I think that is where it starts to get interesting for Minnesota, because we know the formula for Minnesota at this point. Not a lot of movement as far as the roster goes, but they're consistently going to have to be a team that their defense has to be at a certain level. And then offensively, they've got to have more tempo. They got to have more movement. They got to have more of a flow to where you're not just needing Julius Randle drives to hit to a certain level. Good that he did it last year. I thought his playmaking and his drives were important for Minnesota. Anthony Edwards going to have to take another leap offensively because of how teams are treating him. And I think it's interesting. Mike Conley is the glue for this team in a sense, because you might look at the play creation and say, well, they need more. But at the same time, he doesn't need the ball in his hands as much. So Anthony Edwards is allowed to kind of spread his wings. Julius Randle is kind of allowed to spread his wings in a different way. I just want to see them come out with more purpose offensively to start the season, come out with more pace, with more tempo, more execution in the half court. Don't take as long in the half court. And then I think for them, specifically defensively, they've got to set the tone early. It took them a while to get going, but they've got to figure out what they want to do defensively early and kind of make sure they're on that track. That's the biggest key for me.
On my pod a few weeks ago, I forget what episode it was, but I had asked somebody, do you think there's a chance it's a blessing in disguise that they didn't get Kevin Durant, or is this just the one that got away? With KD, I tend to lean on the side of there's a reason why they wanted to trade for this guy, and that's because they knew something fundamental had to change about the construction of the roster. Do you feel that same way?
I think that would have just been we can get Kevin Durant, swing for the fences. We have KD and Anthony Edwards. Good luck defending us in the half court. Like that's like where we're going for it. Home run. We're all in. I don't necessarily think that they are completely flawed. I think it's just going to be, how can we get Julius Randle even more comfortable and make him more dangerous? Especially when it comes to the playoffs. If you're facing a team that's more comfortable with switching and feel like they can defend Julius Randle, they can show help on his drives. We're okay with you kicking.
You really want to bank on Julius Randle, Steve? Is that who you want to bank on?
They don't have a choice at this point. Who else they going to bank on, Kevin?
I don't know. I mean, look, if they had gotten KD, their defense would have fallen off a cliff without Gobert. So I just feel like with them, there's two paths. Like they would have been all in on offense, but they would have had much of a defense. And with this current team, it's like I still don't trust Julius Randle. I still don't trust him. And fair or not.
Which part do you not trust?
The inefficiency, the decision making.
Oh, there it is. The inefficiency.
And that's where I need Rob Dillingham. Look, they traded 2 picks to move up and get Rob Dillingham. They recognize the need for a successor to Mike Conley eventually. And B, they also recognize the need for assistance in the backcourt next to Anthony Edwards in the shot creation department. And C, the X factor that he brings as a creator, as a guy who can get a bucket for you anywhere on the floor at the end of the clock. Will he become that? I don't know. Like we'll see. He's still a young player. We'll see. But they did that for those reasons. And they had interest in Kevin Durant for those reasons, knowing what is needed for this team. And with Julius Randle, it's just so up and down, man. Like it's been years of just, sometimes he has these great games. Sometimes he makes these bonehead decisions that like leave me wondering, why don't we just trade this dude? But ultimately, as you said, they have him. They're stuck with him. And you're going to get your games where he goes 1 for 7. You're going to get your games where he scores 30. Like it's just the way it is with him.
We're gonna get some respect on these drives this year, Kevin. We're gonna get there. I will say the person I actually am looking the most at is Jaden McDaniels. Does he have a little bit more offensive growth in that tank? Can he be a little bit more consistent? This is a runway for him without Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think for him to display a little bit of that as far as being able to consistently make drives, be aggressive, be someone who can be used on and off ball. So that's the person where I'm like, if he can make a leap, I think Minnesota looks a little different.
Do you think Minnesota belongs in the true contenders category?
Well, I mean, back to back. Yeah, they've shown that they can get there. So yeah, I know a lot of people will probably be like, nah, Minnesota, but no, they do it every playoffs. It's no surprise.
Yeah. So literally back to back West Finals. Yes, I think they belong there too. And plus, Anthony Edwards has gotten better every year. It feels fair to project him getting a little bit better once again. So those are the 3 best teams in the Northwest Division. We also have the Blazers and the Jazz. Let's talk about the Blazers here. Their offseason was an interesting one. They bring back Damian Lillard, who will not play this season as he recovers from a torn Achilles. They also got Drew Holiday. They drafted Yang Hansen, surprisingly, in the first round. They lose DeAndre Ayton. They lose Anthony Simons. And so for the Blazers, man, like I think you're looking at this team right now. If you're a Blazers fan, then you're like, oh, cool, we have Dame back. Cool, we have this really young roster. But ultimately, I think with them, what they clearly are building when you look at their rotation, Steve, they want to build on what they did to end last season where they had a top 10 defense over the second half. When you got Klingon, Grant, Avdia, Kamara, Drew Holiday potentially as a starting 5 for your team, with Time Lord Robert Williams as a backup 5. Like, this is a team that values defense and is trying to be a really high-level defensive unit. The question is going to be what are they going to be offensively? But I love their defense.
I think that's the biggest key. Portland has been a team for me for like the last 2 years. This time of year, I look at the roster. I'm like, I like a lot of these pieces. I don't know what it means. I'm intrigued. You have Drew Holiday to the mix. You have the defense they had to end last season. Obviously, you mentioned Klingon, but like we have bigs who can do a very specific thing. We have Tumani Kamara and Drew Holiday. That's not very fun as far as trying to attack that unit. I am intrigued to see, can the defense do enough consistently for them to kind of exist in a different stratosphere in the Western Conference? Doesn't necessarily mean a massive push, but like, can they move forward to where we know what the Blazers are going to do every single night? I think the biggest thing for me with the Blazers was there was inconsistency as far as that defense went. You didn't know what the offense was going to be. You had young, bright spots. And then you had nights where it didn't look like they knew what they were going to do on every single night. If they can bring a defensive effort every single night, I get really interested with what that looks like. Because if you look at some of the lineups they put out there, it's just not fun. Like, who wants to deal with Drew and Tumani Kamara? And then if you get by them, there's either a wing or Donovan Clinging. Like, you know what I mean? There's just annoyance that can be found.
For sure. I mean, they have the potential to be a really good defense. I'm also excited to see what Chauncey Billups does with the rotations, because you look at Klingon, you look at Robert Williams, Duop Reith was okay last year for them as well. And then they draft Yang Hansen out of China. Are we going to see the Blazers go like Twin Towers with two big lineups some of the time? Are we going to see like two guys on the post? Early 2000s, 90s style, because Klingon wants to be a shooter, but he's not yet. Yang Hansen wants to be a shooter, but he's not yet. Like, so are these guys are they gonna force feed them, spot up opportunities, or are we gonna see like two bigs posting up, like with a real throwback style situation here? Can that work in the NBA, Steve? Like, let's just say Klingon and Yang Hansen, neither of them become shooters, but both of them become productive NBA players. Can it work in the modern NBA to have two bigs that are non-shooters in a key lineup on your team?
I'm gonna get yelled at, but yes. Like, all two big lineups are different. All two big lineups are different, and
is Houston the evidence for it? Is that why?
Not. See, in my mind, I'm thinking of two post-up players who can smash you, right? Because I think two big lineups have a place in the NBA. You're going to see more people talk about it and love them. You need a versatility between the two bigs to make it work. But I'm trying to think of two bigs who would just be big in both. Like, you just go high-low with them all the time. So in my mind, I'm thinking, get a big, get a switch, throw it in. We do it with the other one. We just consistently do that. That could work. Now, how long would it work? I'm not exactly sure. But you could like mash a team for 4 to 5 minutes in the second quarter, in my opinion. Defensively, you would. That's where you would have to make sure that they're good on that end, because if you have two bigs and drop, that's not necessarily ideal. So we'll go maybe. I'll stick with maybe. Optimism.
I think maybe's very fair, very fair. I'm just excited, and I hope we see it this year. I mean, ultimately, though, I think for the Blazers, the biggest question with them is, do things actually click for Scoot Henderson? He showed some progress last year after a really, really not great rookie season. Does he become their point guard of the future? Does he force his way into heavy minutes on this team and look like the energizer alongside the play? Like, there's plenty to feel optimistic about. I think with Klingon, plenty of reason for optimism defensively. Denny Avdia, the way he closed the season. Tumani Kamara, what he is defensively. But Scoot Henderson, does he start looking like a star? That to me is the big question with the Blazers this season. What's your level of optimism with him, Steve? What have you seen from his development over his 2 years in the NBA?
I think I'm still pretty high on Scoot Henderson, in my opinion. I think for me, what I've liked is just him kind of having the understanding of when and how to change speeds when he's looking to get downhill, when he's able to get paint touches, knowing when to get to a shot, just kind of reading the defense a little bit better as opposed to kind of trying to force the issue in predetermined reads. Obviously, shooting, improving helps, even if it's just minimal, just having that confidence and being able to occasionally mix in a three, occasionally mix in a pull-up. But I think for him, it's just going to be finding a consistency and understanding what the defense is doing and just taking what they give him. I think that's the best thing for him. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops, because if you are around Chauncey Billups and Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard, by osmosis, something should, trickle in, right? So does he feel more comfortable knowing that, okay, I don't necessarily have to, and this is no shot at Anthony Simons, but we don't have that dynamic anymore. I can kind of take this by the reins and kind of play it in a different way. I think the way that Chauncey Billups kind of enhanced his confidence over time, that'll be interesting. So, I mean, can he figure out drop defense in a way that's sustainable? Can he get the pull-ups? Can he know when to get in the paint? But I'm not out on Scoot.
I'm not out on Scoot yet either. It's just a matter of what level does he reach as a player. I think he's going to be a productive, rotation guard, but does he become is there a star in there? Is the question with Scoot.
Where are you at with Shaden Sharp?
He feels lost in this mix here. It's like he's just kind of become an afterthought when you look at the Blazers. Elite athlete, dynamic scorer. Is there a winning player in there? How does he fit into this ecosystem with the Blazers? Where is his place on this team? I mean, when we had the rotation on the screen, that's one of the reasons why I put him and Scoot on the bench together. It's like I want to see those guys getting a lot of minutes together, because even if Drew Holiday starts, even if he stays on the Blazers throughout the duration of the season, and we'll see there with what actually happens, I want to see Sharp and Scoot getting a lot of time together on the floor. With Shaden Sharp, is he gonna become a reliable shooter? He's at 33% from three in his career, or is he just gonna be one of those streaky guys? I don't know, man. I think with Sharp, there's a lot to like, but also there's just a lot of questions with him still lingering that were there pre-draft and that have not gone away in 3 years, that are still a thing. Are you higher on him than I am? Because I just feel like not a lot has changed with him in 3 years besides volume increasing, which is nice to see.
I think for me, when it comes to Shea, it's more about the consistency. I just want to see the consistency of his ability to understand and read defenses. He had some stretches last year, especially early, where he understood how to rejet, how to attack drop, kind of just be able to drive and finish, and kind of be that person who I can get in the paint, I can make a pull up, I can make you pay. Can he have that understanding and be someone who consistently delivers a read or consistently makes a play? That's what I want to see from Shaden Sharp. Obviously, the athleticism, the scoring potential is there, but can we count on this every single night? If we can, I think we got a pretty good player. If we can't,
at a minimum, I think the Blazers are going to be fun. I think they're going to be a top 10-ish league pass team. They're going to be exciting to watch. I love their defense. They're going to be, even though they're rebuilding, that's the tier they belong in, is the rebuilding tier. They're going to be a fun team. And I'm very excited to watch the Blazers. And I think I would say the same thing about our final team in the Northwest Division as well. The Utah Jazz are going to be fun this season. They drafted Ace Bailey. They drafted Walter Clayton Jr., two of the, if you were ranking the college prospects by funness, regardless of talent, both of those guys would be in the top 5, with Ace Bailey being the dynamic scorer he is, and Walter Clayton being the Steph-like bucket getter that he was in March Madness. The dude was amazing. And so the Jazz this offseason, they also added some vets: Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love, George Niang, Yusuf Nurkic. They lose Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, Colin Sexton, among others. The Jazz, man, Steve, I like their young guys, but this team is going to be bad, which you want to be. You want to get another high lottery pick, but I like their youth. I like what they're building.
I think for me, I like the fact that they are starting the season younger, as opposed to the Utah Jazz program of, we have these vets, they're pretty good, and well, now we're a different team. No, this is us. This is who we are. This is our foundation. This is our youth. Everyone go out there and do it. And I think one thing that gets underrated, lost in shuffle, Will Hardy, pretty creative offensively. So I'm excited to see what he does, having kind of a level of depth and youth and people who can drive and be used in different ways. We've seen how he's used Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler spaced on the wing to get into a handoff or a pick and roll. There's different things that he can do with this roster. So I'm intrigued to see what he tries to do more than anything else. But I think the Jazz are going to be fun. I think offensively, they're going to get after it. We'll compete defensively, I imagine. I don't know how good it's going to be, but they're going to be a fun team to watch grow and progress over the course of the season. Is there a particular player that you think people are sleeping on with the Utah Jazz, Kevin?
Taylor Hendricks. Obviously has been not a great start to his NBA career, but as a draft prospect with his size, length, and versatility, he reminded me of what we all wished Justice Winslow would be in the NBA when he was drafted in the lottery out of Duke. I just really like Taylor Hendricks, and I also like all things Hendricks, even though he has a different spelling than Jimi Hendrix. But ultimately, I think with this team, Bryce Sensabaugh as well off their bench. Very intriguing player with his scoring ability. Like this team just has like a bunch of fun bucket getters, like different combinations: Sensabaugh plus Collier, or George plus Clayton, or three guards, Sensabaugh and George and Clayton. Like they have a lot of like young firepower guys who can score with and without the ball. And then you add on top of that the big young star, Ace Bailey, that everybody's going to be wanting to watch this season. Ace Bailey, obviously, he did not want to end up in Utah. But to me, I think Ace Bailey, this is a blessing in disguise for him. You mentioned Will Hardy's offensive creativity. Some of the vets they have here, there is a little bit of infrastructure for Utah as well. Ace Bailey, I think, is in a great developmental situation where you have some guards to complement him. You got Lauri Markkanen, an all-star talent. You got some solid bigs. It's a good team for him to develop within. What were your first impressions of Ace Bailey this college season at Summer League, and what do you want to see from him as a rookie with the Jazz?
I want to see what it looks like with, next to Lauri Markkanen within the flow of what Utah wants to do. I think going back to my mind going into the summer league, I kind of liked seeing him involved in a little bit more movement and him being able to kind of get the ball on the move and kind of attacking quick flashes. And I think the infrastructure would help him to a degree as far as being able to develop a level of consistency where I can make these plays, but I don't necessarily have to make these plays. And so it's like, for me, it's like, how do they want to use him consistently? Because I'm thinking of him flying off screens, being able to get downhill, maybe get some handoffs. That part intrigues me. But I think it's his overall mindset. He's got an aggression and a mindset to score that stands out every time you watch him.
Do you have any concerns at all about the fact that on our reserve depth chart here, there's a bunch of vets that might not be getting minutes, like Nurkic, Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, George Niang, Svi Mykhailiuk. Like these guys should not be getting minutes ahead of Kyle Filipowski, Taylor Hendricks, Cody Williams, Bryce Sensabaugh, Walton Clayton. Like to me, that's my big question with the Jazz. Are they going to be appeasing the vets here, or are they going to be all in the youth plus Lauri Markkanen? And that's it.
I mean, I think they're geared to be towards the youth. I would not be surprised if Niang or Anderson sneaks in that rotation just because of their ability to fit in a lot of different ways.
But where, Steve? You want to take minutes from Cody Williams, from Taylor Hendricks? Like, where are you fitting these guys in? Are you going 12 deep? Is that what you're doing with these guys?
Hey, I'll use a little bit of my old coach brand. You got to earn those minutes. So you better outplay him. You better outplay him. I'm just saying, you better outplay George Niang, or else he's gonna be spaced in the corner, and you're gonna be watching the Jazz games like, why is George Niang out there? I'll be like, I told you, space the floor, move the ball.
It's fair. It's fair. But at the same time, like sometimes these guys have to get minutes in order to improve, right? Like certain players, I think they can improve through practice. Certain guys need live reps.
They do. And I think the fact that they changed the roster around to this degree says they are trying to go with the youth to a higher level. And I think more of those minutes would be the more adults in the room type beat, as far as maybe second quarter, fourth quarter minutes. Obviously those guys want to compete if they're there. So I would not be surprised if a couple of them sneak in there. But this team is going to be young, and those guys are going to have plenty of opportunity to earn their minutes. I'll put it that way. They're going to be fun.
Yeah. And I'd say for the Jazz, they belong in the tankers tier. Like this team is not trying to make the playoffs. They're still figuring out who they are. And I expect them to be near the top of the lottery, maybe even the best odds. And for a prediction for them, Lauri Markkanen, man, like in Eurobasket, Finland won again today on Wednesday. We're recording. They're going to advance to the semifinals. Lauri looks awesome. He looks healthier than he did last season. I think this dude's in for a big year, and we're going to see him become a trade target. One of the pieces that contenders look for and say, oh, he could be our guy to give us a shot. Will they trade him? Who knows? I mean, like they don't have to trade him. There's no reason to necessarily. But I think we're going to see Lauri Markkanen be involved in trade discussions again after he kind of fell out last year after signing his contract.
Do you think people forget how good Lauri Markkanen is? Is he going to become the next victim of his contract type beat?
Well, this year could be the reminder. You know what I mean? I think people might forget after last season, but I think this year could be the reminder of how good he is and of the versatility that he can bring to a lineup offensively. I think this year is what we're going to see from him that's going to make him an appealing piece for teams to go out and say, okay, he can be the guy that we need to go get to have a chance. The problem is like as you said, with that salary number, it just becomes really hard to trade a guy making all that money during the regular season. It's very difficult. So I think with Lauri Markkanen, that's where the hesitation would be when I talk about, you have a guy that's going to be making 46, $47 million this season. That's tough to move, but not impossible. Not impossible though.
No, I'll tell you. A reminder: watching some of the Eurobasket, that guy can be used in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You want to throw him in the post, you want to get him at the elbow, use him as a screener, have him come off screens. Like that's a fun part where it's like, oh yeah, he can do a whole lot. So, salute to Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, I think Markkanen's going to be involved in some trade discussions. Will they trade him? Well, it makes sense too. We'll see about that. But ultimately, the Utah Jazz, a bad team. But again, like I think they're going to be a fun bad team. I don't think they're going to be one of those eyesore types of teams you tune in on. I think there's a lot of good stuff to watch this year. And I think as like a basketball fan, if you're a fan of a bad team, like that's all you want to hope for is you want to feel like a team has direction and purpose with what they're doing. And I think the Jazz are one of those teams where like, I get where we are. We're figuring out what's going to stick. We're figuring out who our guys are, and we're watching college basketball and praying to God we get AJ DeBonsa from BYU. That's what you're hoping for. So like, I think like it's could be a good year in Utah, despite probably what will be an under 20 win team this season. But Steve, thank you so much for joining me today, man, to discuss the Northwest Division, man. Please tell people where they can find your stuff.
You can follow me on socials at Steve Jones 20, and you can check out the Dunker Spot, and that's it. I'm really good at this self promotion thing, I promise.
Hey, you're elite at it, Steve. You're also elite with basketball knowledge. Thank you so much for joining me today, man. Thank you.
Thank you.